One of the biggest things that we worry about as readers is, did somebody else like the same book as me? That's most of the reason why you guys have found my channel or are watching my video. So now I have that same question in regards to Goodreads ratings. Hey everyone, my name's Amanda and I'm the Fun Size Reader. And for day 13 of Bookmas this year, I wanted to look at how Goodreads ranked books that I read and how my ratings compared. So I wanted to look at, I started with looking at like the top 5 on Goodreads, the top 5 and the lowest 5, but then I kind of like kept spiraling a little bit because there were some that shocked me. And I'm seriously, when my husband was reading them off and I was looking at my ratings and he said one of them and my jaw literally dropped. I was like, no freaking way. So we're going to do the top 10s. We're going to do the 10 highest ranked on Goodreads that from my year of reading compared to what I rated them, and the 10 lowest ranked and compare it to what I rated them. We're going to start off with the highest ranked. So the highest ranked book on Goodreads from my list of books is A Light in the Flame by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This one just came out, so there's not tons of rankings yet, but the average is still really high. On Goodreads, the average ranking for this book is a 4.59 stars. Now, if you've paid any attention to my channel in the past few weeks, I have talked about this book so much, and I have talked about loving Daddy Niktos so much. So I really agree with this rating. I think the rating should be high. I gave it a 5, and to find out that this was the highest ranked book in my list made me pretty happy. So yes, Goodreads, I agree with you. Number 2, coming in with a ranking of 4.52 is House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this one 5 stars. So I agree. I think that having it that high, literally number 2, was pretty good. What's interesting though is I don't know if I thought that this book was better than the first one, even though I gave them both 5 stars. It was interesting that this one was higher in the Goodreads rankings for my list of books, because I read both this year, so both are on the list, that this one was higher. And I'm really curious as to why people ranked this one higher than the first one. Because from people that I've talked to, like commonly, it's been said that this one wasn't as good as the first, but still really good. Like, is it that the romance like came out a little bit more? Was it the last page? Like, don't spoil it for yourself if you haven't read it. You're not allowed to look at the last page. But like, was that it? Was that what boosted it up above the first one? Because like, I thought the first one was better. Still love this one. Still absolutely love this one and raved about it. And it was amazing. And it's my favorite series of hers. But like, interesting Goodreads. Number 3 with an average rating of 4.5 even is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Not at all surprised to find out that a Colleen Hoover was in the top 5 or top 10 on my list. Of course, Reminders of Him, in my opinion, deserves it. I gave this one 5 stars. I have not given every Colleen book 5 stars though. I agree with this one. I agree with this placement. I thought the book was fantastic, sob fest, great, should be this high up. So I'm glad that it seemed like everybody else kind of agreed with my opinion. I hope they didn't cry as much as I did. Number 4, coming in at a 4.49, also was interesting. This one is part of a series. And compared to all the other books in the series, I was surprised that this one ranked the highest. That was interesting. Still great. I gave it 5 stars. But book 6 of Zodiac Academy had the highest ranking. Over book 7, over book 5, over book 4, all which were like crazy high ratings. So that was interesting because this one didn't leave off on the biggest cliffhanger compared to other books in the series. Still devastating, but not as devastating as some of them. that was an interesting rating for me. It was interesting to see how high that one was on my list, that this was the highest ranked one. I've given multiple 5 stars, so wonder why. Number 5 with a 4.48 rating on Goodreads is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Again, I thought it was interesting that this one was lower than book 2 because I also gave it a 5, but personally, if we're trying to compare between 5s, I thought this one was higher. But what is more interesting is that number 6 has a rating of the same 4.48 on Goodreads as this book, and that is Gleam by Raven Kennedy. On Goodreads, the rating is exactly the same. I really like the Plated Prisoner series. I really like it, and I really liked Gleam, the book. I gave it 4 stars. So I rated it well under what Goodreads is showing. But I do not equate these 2 books. Like, I think I call this book a masterpiece, a literal masterpiece, like Sarah J. Maas's best book that she's ever written. And everybody on the internet knows how we feel about Sarah J. Maas books. Like, this was a masterpiece in my opinion. So it's real interesting to find out that this book has the exact same rating as Gleam, which I really liked. But I'm having a hard time putting the 2 together at the same level. Mind kind of blown at that one, you guys. Mind kind of blown. How did that happen? I know ratings are subjective. Obviously, they're subjective. But like, that one boggles me. And I know there are a lot of people that don't like this book. I know there are a lot. Gleam. It's interesting. That was interesting. Number 7 is actually a Christmas book, and it came out this year. So to find out that the rating is so high is pretty good. I do think this one could slightly be skewed because way less people have read this book. And if we all really loved it, like I really loved it and gave it 5 stars, it's definitely going to shoot up on that rating. Faking Christmas, I think, is on this list because it is subject to fewer people having read it as compared to things like House of Earth and Blood and House of Sky and Breath and Zodiac Academy and stuff like that. I do think that might have shifted it onto this list, but I still agree with the rating. I still think it needs 5 stars. I still think it is probably my favorite Christmas book that I read this year. And so I'm cool with it. Number 8 is Savage Bonds by Jay Bree, and that is the second book in the Bonds That Tie series. I did just read this one, and I gave this a 4. I still thought it was a solid 4, really, really liked it, but didn't love it. That's about the vibe that the 4.4 rating gives. Like, it's kind of on the closer to 4 end than it is to the closer to 5 end. So more people have given it, a 4. I'm happy with that. It is well, I guess it's only the list that I've read. I was going to say it's interesting that this is less than it, but I haven't read the other ones. So that was dumb. Number 9 with a rating of 4.43 is Cursed Fates, which is book 5 of the Zodiac Academy series. I can see this one being this high because this book was where literally shit hit the fan. Everything was going nuts. People were crazy. Like, things were happening. The spice level also really kicked up on this one. And so I could definitely see why it has that higher rating. I gave this one a 5. It's interesting that of the whole Zodiac series, this is one of the higher ones, but I do see why. This one was very engaging. This is one that people have to talk about after they read it. So I could see it. I could totally see this. What's really funny is how much Zodiac Academy is actually on this list as compared to everything else. I think if anything, that is what sells this series. Is I read the entire what was published series so far this year prior to making this video. I'm making this video on the day that number 8 came out, so I can't judge that one yet because I haven't read it yet. But it's interesting to see how much Zodiac Academy is on this list, and that just goes to show you how great this series is and why I tell you all so much that you should read it. Because coming in at number 10 is another Zodiac Academy book. But this one is not one of the later ones, which is also interesting. At a 4.42 is The Reckoning, which is book 3 of the Zodiac Academy series. I had to look at the 3 on the corner as I was saying it. I can't remember. The titles are so damn confusing. That is one thing that people always ask about. They're like, which one do I start with? Which one's number 1? It's hard. It's hard. Just follow the numbers. That's all you got to do. But The Reckoning, I really liked this one. I also gave this one 5 stars. I thought it was great. I really liked the actual progression of the plot and the magic in this one. I think it was really fun. It was good with the romance, but it still is like leading into stuff into the later books. So I think that's probably why the later books got more votes than this one did. But I still really like the magic system in this one. It was funny that book 7 was not on the top 10. But it was tied for number 10, of course. So I have to mention Heartless Sky did come in at 11 and had a 4.42 rating. It was still high up there. People, I think, rated this one less, maybe because of the big chunk in the middle that didn't seem necessary. Maybe because there were some plot lines that were not completely followed. But the devastation in the end did still give it a 5 for me. Overall, for the highest ranked ones, I pretty much agreed with everyone else, which is a confidence booster. Like I like it, and most of other people like it too. Now it's time for the lowest ranked. And this one hurt a little bit because maybe I just gave books more of a chance, or maybe there was something about how I approached the book that made me think of things different. I don't know. Okay, let's go through them. So I'm going to go backwards on this one because it's going from highest to lowest. So at number 10, with a ranking of 3.79 was My Killer Vacation. You guys, I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. I thought this was Tessa Bailey Gold. I was shocked to see that so many people didn't like this book or that ranked it really low. Like, what didn't you like about it? This was Tessa being Tessa. This was literally her not publishing with a publisher so she could say whatever smut she wanted. Like, this was a vacation smutty beach read, and that's what it was advertised as. That's what it looks like. It was that. It was everything that we were promised as readers. I was shocked to see that this had such a low rating, and I gave it 5 stars. So I hope if you read this because of my recommendation, you also loved it and you didn't hate it or dislike it or only kind of like it, because I thought it was really cute and very spicy. At number 9 with a 3.75 is the Fake Santa Apology Tour. I understand this rating. I gave it a 3. I think, like I said in my review video for this, was the length was just too short for the amount of stuff that she shoved into it. And the stuff felt like it moved too quickly, that we didn't connect to the characters, even though it was a novella. I think this one would have done better as a full-length book and probably would have boosted the rating up a little bit higher. Most people agreed with me because it has that 3.75. Number 8, Prince of Sins and Shadows by Emily Blackwood, has a rating of 3.74. I gave this one 4 stars. And it looks like, a lot of people gave it 3, but it is closer to that 4. So I would say that we're all kind of in the same boat on this one. I said that they were a little bit of soft 4s, but for this series specifically, I think that people need to remember it is written as YA. And so that could affect the ratings a little bit. Number 7 is listed as Sacrifice, but I only put it that way just so I can get credit for reading the novella. But A Court of the Vampire Queen, which I DNF'd, and that's why I only had the small novella version of what I read. On Goodreads, it is ranked at 3.72. I gave it a 1. I don't like it. I didn't like it. I DNF'd it. So I was really surprised to see that it had such a high rating, but to be honest with you, not as high as I thought it was going to be for a lot of people who did really like the book. So it was interesting to see that it was kind of in the middle. It was kind of in the middle between, a 5 and a 1. Number 6 at a 3.72 was Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. I gave this book a 3 stars. So I do see why it did get this kind of middle of the road average rating. There were a lot of people that really liked it and really connected with it, but a lot of people, I think, shared my sentiment that the book was not really romance. Like, it was more adventure. It was more fun, but it wasn't really the Christina Lauren that we have come to know and love. I think it felt like a little bit of a letdown for a lot of people. We'd been anticipating a new release from them, and the one that we got just wasn't our favorite. It was good and we liked it, but it just wasn't our favorite. So I would definitely agree with this Goodreads rating. Okay, this one hurt me a little bit. This is number 5, and this rating was a 3.69. And I gave this book 5 stars because I really loved this book. I binged it so quickly, which usually if I binge it very, very quickly, it's automatically a 4 for me. And then depending on how I felt about it, it bumps it up or not. I really liked Set on You. I don't know why it has a lower rating. I thought this was a solid rom-com. Enemies to lovers, slow burn, kind of forced-ish proximity because of the way that their family dynamics was changing. He was a hot firefighter. She was an influencer. There were so many pieces of this that I thought were good, that I really loved. It's kind of sad. I was really shocked at this one. I recommend this one to people. Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to say I shouldn't because I really liked it. But that one did surprise me for sure. This next one did not surprise me. The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. This one had a Goodreads rating of 3.69. I gave it a 3. I liked it, but looking back, my rating probably could have been a 2. I honestly have not really recommended this book to anyone, even fans of Lucy Foley. And this video for this book actually has gotten a lot of really negative comments on it, which is really sad because I don't like ever making anybody feel bad about their work. But this one was not for me. I did not think it was her best. Coming off of the guest list, which I really, really enjoyed from her, it didn't sit well with me. It wasn't up to par. So I definitely agree that 3.69, in my opinion, probably could have been lower because I probably should have given it a 2, but I'll stick with my 3. Number 3 is kind of funny because for as hyped as this book was, I'm surprised the ranking is not higher. But for my rating of it, I agree with it. So this is a different kind of surprise. Ice Planet Barbarians, which was literally viral all over Book Talk, was ranked on Goodreads as a 3.68. I gave it a 3. It was middle of the road for me. There were things about it that I did not like. The concept was very different, but it was good. I liked it. I did read the second one. What was surprising about this was that it was so popular. It got re-released. It's all over the bookstore still, but it has that lower ranking. That surprised me. Obviously, this sticks with my theme that the first one is not really that great and the second one's better because we haven't seen the second one on this list yet. So obviously the ranking is a lot higher. Okay, this one truly did shock me. Number 2. The second lowest ranked book on the list of books that I read this year is Guild by Raven Kennedy. This is the one where my jaw literally dropped. I could not believe it because so many people love the Plated Prisoner series. Shocked. I thought that I was in the minority here because I did give it a 3. So with an average rating of 3.66 on Goodreads, I thought I was in the minority. I thought I was just meh. everybody else seems to love it, raves about it. So I was really surprised to see it on this list. Now, I will be the first one to say that I thought this book was an introductory book. It almost felt like a prequel. It was very short. It didn't have really that much romance in it. It had a lot of world building and kind of a drastic ending. And so maybe other people agreed with me in that it just wasn't oomph enough. Like I said, it had very prequel vibes, very setup, whereas the second and third book is really kind of where the series got going. This book, I do think, would be very important in seeing it on television, which we are going to see because it got picked up to be a TV show. And I do think that this book is very important. I do think that the visuals of the show can do this part of the story a lot more justice, and I think maybe be expanded upon. So it is surprising that this one had such a low rating, but I do think the series only goes up from here, and that's really evident in the Goodreads rankings. And number 1, which made me sad to see this because I think I really like this author and I follow her and I really want her to succeed. She's an indie author. I was really sad to see that her book was ranked the lowest on my list. With a 3.54, House of Lies and Sorrow by Emily Blackwood was the lowest ranked on Goodreads. It still is at a 3.5. Which is not bad. Like, this is not a bad ranking. I was surprised to see that it was that low. For as many like fans and followers that she has, it interested me. I kind of had explanations why though. I gave this one a 4, but like I said very clearly in my review, like you kind of really have to reframe thinking about this book because I think Emily wrote this book to market. She was very, very open and honest that she wrote this book based on what everybody on Book Talk, everybody on BookTube, everybody on Bookstagram, things that they said that they liked. She included those pieces in this book, and it was done that way on purpose. I thought the book was enjoyable. I liked it, but I did want more from it. Her advertising and the way that she did the kind of catchy videos on TikTok, I think may have rubbed some people the wrong way. It got a lot of people to click on the book and to read it, which is obviously the goal of marketing your book, right? That's obviously the goal. So I do not fault her for that at all. I think that some people went into this book with the expectation that this was going to be a new adult, spicy, dark fantasy romance. And when there wasn't spice, there was just kind of steaminess and tension and angst. I think a lot of people felt disappointed because that wasn't what they were expecting. Because of that, I understand why this 3.54 is there, but I didn't necessarily agree with it being just a 3. I thought it was a little soft, like it was a soft 4 for me. I still really liked the story and the characters. I wanted more. And I think that also could be in the case because the books are a little bit shorter. They're about 250 pages instead of like 300 or 350 that you would expect of a fantasy book or a fantasy YA book. So I think all of those elements kind of come into play when looking at this rating. I want to reiterate my star rating ranking for this video. I think it's really important to remember what the ranking is, especially for my rankings. I explain it more in my ranking video, so you can always check that out. It's got its own little section on my channel page. But just a refresher, my star rankings are 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I was obsessed with it. 4 stars, I really liked it. 3 stars, I liked it. 2 stars, it was okay. 1 star, I didn't like it. Now, it's important to say that this is actually the same ranking that Goodreads used. If you hover over the stars on your Goodreads page, it will say almost exactly those words that I just said. So Goodreads uses the same ranking. So when I say like, yeah, the rankings are subjective, it's all about how people feel, Goodreads uses feeling for their rankings. So if people are actually using the Goodreads star rankings as they're like meant to be, it should be pretty consistent. I don't know if many people are using them that way, but they do list them that way. That's how I list mine too. So for example, House of Lies and Sorrow, getting that 3 stars, that's still, I liked it. So everything 3 stars and above is still the person reading it liked it. And 83% of people that read that book liked it or more. So like, that's still great. So I do think it's a little crazy that people look at 3-star reviews and say, oh, that's not really a good review. I completely disagree, because that's still me saying I liked the book. That's still positive in my book. 2 stars and below is it was okay, not really positive feelings there, or I didn't like it. 3 and above is still over 80% of people saying they enjoyed this book. So I always want to reiterate that, at least for my channel, I still believe that 3-star ratings are good ratings. And it is great to know that, like, I read a ton of great books this year, because if a 3.5 was the lowest rating that I had, I call that a successful year of reading. I'm curious, were there any on this list that shocked you guys? Or if you have some on your own list, like what was the most shocking one to you, either from my list or from your own? I do read all of my comments, if any of you have watched my comments video from earlier in Bookmas, but I do read all of them. So like, I am truly interested to know if there were any that were that shocking to you guys. Well, day 13 of Bookmas is over, and I'm very happy that you came to hang out with me today. I know a lot of you have been asking for my videos to be longer, so I'm really, really trying, but I also don't want to sound like I'm just blabbing at you the whole time. So hopefully for those of you who use my videos to cook dinner or do chores or go for a walk or something, this was long enough. I'm trying. I'm really trying. Anyways, thanks so much for tuning in with me today. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. And don't forget, you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Fun Size Reader. See you guys next time.